Apple had a really weird end of the year. Think about it. Out of nowhere, they announced a new M5 chip that went into 3 very different products. The iPad Pro, the Vision Pro, and yes, the M5 MacBook Pro. And even weirder than that was that for the first time ever in the age of Apple Silicon, this was the only Mac to get updated with a new M5 chip. And this puts the Mac lineup into a very strange spot, where you now have the M4 Pro and Max MacBook Pros being sold at higher price points than the base M5 model, which probably leads a lot of you to think, well, maybe I should wait for that true M5 Pro and M5 Max upgrade. And then there's also probably a lot of you also waiting on the fact that there are rumors that a significant Mac redesign might be coming out. But I'm here to tell you that waiting may actually be the foolish choice. Especially right now. First, let's get a few things out of the way. Yes, I'm gonna admit it right here, right now, you're gonna hear Greg say it. This MacBook body is something that's hard to get excited about at this point. It is the same body we've had since the 2021 redesign, and I'm not here to tell you that there's some major innovation here, because there isn't. It has the same ports, the same 14.2-inch mini LED display, the same speakers, the same keyboard, the same trackpad, the same notch, and the same camera as last year's M4 model. But is that a bad thing? This is a design we have lived with for years, so naturally, we know that it is a design that works very well for this laptop. The 14-inch size is a sweet spot. It gives you plenty of screen real estate while still keeping the overall form factor of the device relatively compact. Yes, it's not as thin and light as the MacBook Air, but in the real world, anywhere you can realistically pack the Air, you can very likely pack along the MacBook Pro without too much noticeable weight being added on. Even old gotchas like slower SSD speeds have not only been improved on the base M5 model, but they now are faster than the more expensive M4 Pro version. That is unheard of, not to mention that it also has better battery life than the M4 Pro version that matches the expensive 16-inch MacBook Pro at 24 hours of total battery life. I guess if I was being nitpicky, the one omission that you could still find with this cheaper MacBook Pro is that even though it does have the same number of ports as the M4 Pro and Max variant, they are still just Thunderbolt 4 ports, not the faster Thunderbolt 5 speeds that will future-proof you for Thunderbolt 5 accessories like faster external drives, hubs, or potentially a high-resolution, high-frame-rate display that maybe someone will come out with in the future. But other than that one small difference, a 14-inch M5 MacBook Pro looks and works exactly the same as the M4 Pro version. Except, of course, for the chip. Now, we all know that Apple Silicon is fast, but I don't think people realize how much of a jump this base-level laptop gets, not only from the M4, but from previous Apple Silicon Macs. For starters, look at the CPU performance. Now, yes, the M5 has the fastest single-core CPU performance out of any Mac. There's literally no amount of money you can spend, even on Apple's more expensive Mac desktops, that will get you to match the single-core performance in what is available on the M5 chip. So things like opening apps and just the general snappiness and responsiveness of the user interface will be the quickest on this MacBook Pro. Now, single core performance doesn't mean top tier performance in every category, but it's kind of a really good example where this type of additional performance is going to make the difference for most users. This is very important to the things that we do most often on our laptops, and I'm including myself in that category. Performance on this machine is just so fast. Oh, I'm sorry. I had some cookies in the oven. It's the holidays and I enjoy a sweet treat, and wait a minute. There's also some cookies on my Mac. And not the good kind, the digital cookies of cache files and system junk that pile up for months after daily use. And these cookies aren't being eaten, they're eating up the space on my Mac's hard drive. So instead of oven cleaner, I use Clean My Mac, because during the busy holiday season, all you need is one click to completely scan your Mac, and then Clean My Mac finds all of those unused system junk files, system caches, and duplicate files taking up precious space on your Mac's limited hard drive space, and then lets you clear it just as easily, reclaiming your Mac's drive space. And with Cloud Cleanup, you can now take the amazing scanning capabilities of Clean My Mac directly to the cloud for services like iCloud, OneDrive, and Google Drive, letting you free up cloud storage for synced and unsynced files. And Clean My Mac is also a handy assistant, with helpful menu bar controls to let you clear and free available system memory, monitor your CPU or network usage, and check your battery's overall health while also proactively warning you of battery draining apps. You can kind of say that Clean My Mac clears the wrong cookies so you can enjoy the right ones. That's pretty good. And what's the holidays without a deal? You can start clearing your cookies 7 days for free and use my code GregsGadgets for 20% off your purchase. And thank you to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video. Now, as I was saying before the bills needed to be paid, the M5 chip is fast, but it doesn't stop at just single core performance upgrade. There's also the multi-core performance on this machine. And what really impresses me here is that it matches where the baseline M3 Max chip was. And the real mind blower to me actually is that after 4 years, this CPU level now matches the performance of the first M1 Ultra chip. And that is a 20-core CPU made for a desktop level Mac that on the lowest end was a $4,000 computer just 4 years ago. So now you can get that same level of performance that was in a $4,000 Mac Studio in a $1,600 Mac laptop. I know performance and speed doesn't really matter too much in like the age of Apple Silicon because everything's so fast, right? Like we always just say like M1 was fast enough, but just being like a computer nerd and spec nerd, that kind of blows my mind. Of course, this is still a base level MacBook Pro, and yes, you can expect some weaknesses here, specifically in GPU performance. Now, for a baseline M5 chip, is the GPU performance impressive? Yeah, and it's actually a pretty good upgrade over the M4, but it's not going to perform as well as an older M1 Max or even the Ultra generations of previous M3 chips. Now, if you're sitting there with a budget of $1,600 and you're worrying about this weakness, I wouldn't, because the MacBook still excels at content creation tasks like video editing, photo editing, music production. The M5 chip is also specifically tuned for AI tasks, so if you're doing any local AI tasks, the M5 should be pretty fast for it. And even if you're playing games, an area where traditionally you need a lot of GPU power, if the titles are optimized for Apple Silicon, and there are a few out there now, this MacBook Pro actually performs pretty respectably, with levels of performance that would have been unheard of on a base level MacBook Pro even 5 years ago. For $1,600, the value to performance ratio is really good. And with 512 gigabytes of storage and 16 gigabytes of memory, chances are you might not even need to upgrade this. Still, I think if there was one upgrade I would recommend for creative professionals for the MacBook Pro, it would be to get more memory. With 24 or 32 gigabytes of memory, it allows a little more breathing room, especially if you're like me and run a lot of intensive applications at the same time. But for me, I am using the base level version, and even with 16 gigabytes of memory, I am getting by. Now, $1,600 was already a really good start for this deal, but the best part that I alluded to earlier in this video is that you can currently find this Mac for as low as $1,350 on third-party sites like Amazon, which just takes the value of this thing and makes it a real no-brainer purchase. Now, yes, $1,350 is tempting. You're probably rushing to Amazon to put this Mac in your cart, but stay with me here, because there's two things you're going to want to know before you purchase this Mac. First of all, is this MacBook Pro really worth it over the MacBook Air? Now, yes, I touted the performance of the M5 chip. It is impressive, but the M4 MacBook Air was already pretty impressive, and it is kind of hard to beat it in terms of sheer value, where it's also having a moment where it's getting like marked down to like $750. And when you look at performance for most people, I don't think many will be able to really take advantage of the power of the M5 chip, and most users will be fine with the M4. But let's remember the other upgrades that this Mac comes with. a better 120 Hz mini LED display, more ports, better speakers, more battery life. So with those upgrades, I think that's where you should really look about upgrading to the MacBook Pro, which is a weird thing to say, right? You would say you should go Pro for performance, but I think this upgrade only really makes sense when you look at the other specs that this machine offers, not just the performance upgrade. And you also need to factor in that, yes, the MacBook Pro starts with 512 gigabytes of storage, where the M4 Air starts with 256 gigabytes. So even though it looks like a huge jump in price, you need to be made aware that when you start upgrading the storage, these Macs get a lot closer in their price points. And the second thing you need to be made aware of is that Mac upgrades are coming in two forms. So yes, we are still waiting for the M5 version of the more expensive MacBook Pro and even the MacBook Air. But we're also hearing rumors about a big redesign coming to the MacBook Pro by the end of 2026. And this big redesign will basically be that the MacBook Pro is getting thinner, which may be good or bad, who knows? And I think the big upgrade is that it's supposed to be getting a OLED display, which people have been waiting for a while now. Now, rumors are just rumors, so take this all with a grain of salt. I don't have any inside information. I'm just basing this on rumors that are publicly available for you to read. However, let's say this all does happen, right? Well, I know that we should also look at Apple's history on how they update their machines. And I would only expect this OLED version of the MacBook Pro with this big redesign to be on their higher end models. That means models with the Pro and Max chips. And on top of that, when Apple puts an OLED display into a MacBook Pro, expect it to get more expensive, because that's what happened when they put an OLED into the iPad Pro. So we shouldn't expect that they will introduce this same MacBook Pro at this pretty low price point that we have right now. I would expect an OLED version of the MacBook Pro to retail more than the M4 Pro and M4 Max versions that we have now. That means a higher than $2,000 starting price. I also think that means that this M5, or in reality, that M6 version of the MacBook Pro, when it comes out, won't get that redesign, because throughout Apple history, we have seen especially MacBook Pros on the lower end not get the new redesign right away, because Apple still needs to hit a lower price point. Again, you can take that with a grain of salt. I don't know the future. I don't have inside knowledge. But those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. And based on Apple's history, this design is going to stick around with us on those lower end base level versions. Which means, yes, you will not regret buying this MacBook. I actually can't think of a time where this was such a clear-cut winner in terms of value and features. And when it comes to the entire Mac lineup, this Mac currently stands alone as the best choice for any new laptop buyers. But that's just my take on the M5 MacBook Pro. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the M5 MacBook Pro. If you like the video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. And thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.